Good morning. Before we begin today, we got a little bit to talk about. I've gotten word from on high, not that high, the district and the synodical offices, they have strongly recommended that we go to a no physical contact worship service. They're not suggesting by any means that we stop worshiping, but no shaking hands, no fist bumps, no greetings of any kind like that, no hugging, no whatever. So we're not going to stand up and greet this morning. When you come in, when you leave, greet those around you with a wave, with a bow, with a curtsy, whatever you want to do. But please limit your physical contact. And I'm not as concerned about all this as they seem to be. I really look at this as a great idea that Satan has to scare everybody, to keep them home from church. And you can see by the numbers in both services this week and last week that it's working. And people are afraid to go out of the house. Bottom line is more people are going to die in the United States this year from the flu than from the coronavirus. So what are we so concerned about? Use your common sense, wash your hands. If you're going to sneeze into your arm or into a Kleenex. Don't sneeze on people in front of you or around you. And just practice good hygiene during this time. Jesus, the Savior of all mankind, was the Word made flesh. The Apostle John began his gospel with these words that Mary already read. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of man. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. From before God created the world, Jesus was there and was a part of that creation. And then on Christmas Day, Jesus came to the world that he helped to create in order to save that world. And in this miracle birth, we find the beginning of life eternal. And in the same birth, Jesus arrived to the beginning of his end, the end of his earthly life. And it came about simply because we were and still are powerless to save ourselves from the bondage of sin. Jesus was born for the sole purpose of dying to free us from sin and death and Satan. John continued to teach us, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen his glory. Glory as of the only Son, full of grace and truth. And John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me. For from his fullness we have received grace upon grace." Think about that. Grace upon grace. When we had enough grace, we got more grace. When we had enough gifts, we got more gifts. When God gave us enough love, he gave us more love. And after he had given us everything, he gave us his Son and life eternal. And all of this was foretold through the prophets of the Old Testament. They told us about John the Baptist preparing the way for the Messiah. They taught us about the Christ, the Word made flesh. And again, I'll say it, all Old Testament roads lead us to the manger and the child born to save the world from our sins. This is why I pray today that we would all see the hand of God throughout human history as he directed his upper story to enter our lower story in the form of a child, his Son, our Savior Jesus. I pray that we would never for a moment forget that the greatest gift of all time first appeared as a baby sent from God, lying in that manger. Most of all today, though, I pray that we would all remember that there is no joy in life greater than Easter joy and greater than Christmas joy. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let earth receive her King. Amen. That's all, folks.